So, Rich, I would suggest you reach out to us directly. I know you're asking questions. It sounds like you're more in the owner finance subject to world, and that you're not sure how we can foreclose an owner. We're become Bank of America. Bank of America can foreclose on anyone. If you take on their debt as Bank of America and they assign a debt to you, you have the ability, just like Bank of America can, to foreclose. This is the world of buying the note versus originating the note. What he's suggesting is once he has the property, he then creates a note then after he's already foreclosed on it and remove the borrower in that position. Feel free to reach out to us, Rich. We can explain a little bit more off air. Absolutely. So we're curious too. I know, Nathan shared some of his off air stories, and we're going to get to some of the fun stuff now. Can you tell us the best deal you've come across? What was something that you don't have to remember all the numbers, but tell us the best scenario, little story of your deal.
Oh, boy. Think about this one. I don't know. I had a lot of good ones. So let me think. I guess the ones I like, I could talk about ones where I made a ton of money, which I've made a ton of money in a lot of them, but some that I feel good about in terms of the story, I guess I'll tell one of those instead, which, I also made money on. And actually this one, it wasn't probably the biggest money maker because it was a kind of a low value note, but,
While you think of that real quick, one quick question came up was, do you always have to foreclose, or can you get a deed in lieu from an heir instead of foreclosing?
yes, you can get a deed. Well, you can talk about the reverse mortgages.
Yes.
Can you get a deed in lieu? Well, it depends. So if the title is, you have to look at the title, right?
Yep.
Meaning,
And deed in lieu means that you're exchanging a deed in lieu of foreclosure. For those who don't know, I apologize.
yeah. I mean, typically deed in lieu only, you can do that when the title's pretty clean, doesn't have a bunch of liens on it, blah blah blah. And then who can deed it over, right? Well,
Yeah.
they're both passed away, so an heir technically can. It have to go through probate, and the probate, I mean, then the heir would have to get control of the property. And
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah, so it can happen other than foreclosure. So where would you say one of your best deals, if you have some numbers, it'd be even better? What states are you typically buying this in, and what was the state that you bought probably one of your better deals in?
I've purchased notes in 32 states now. And I think there's one in a couple in Virginia and in the West Virginia. Virginia one that kind of sticks out where I bought the note. It was a house where the people really didn't want to keep the house. I had bought the note at a pretty good discount, and they decided to leave. So I think on this note, I bought it at, I don't know, low hundreds, like 100, let's say 100 to make the numbers easy. The house was probably worth 180-ish, but it did need a little bit of work. And so I tried to do a loan mod. Obviously, my first goal is to keep the people in the home if they want to be in the home, of course, and try to modify it. Because truthfully, if you modify a loan, you can usually make more money, right? But that's not really the goal. The goal is, hey, I don't really want to fight with anybody. If they want to stay in the home, I'm going to try to make it so that they stay in there and work with them. But these people did not. So we did, in that case, we did a deed in lieu because they had a pretty good clean title. They didn't have any, IRS liens or state tax liens or whatever judgments. So we got that done. Once we got that done, we took hold of the property. I found some people up in that area that are contractors to, rehab the property. Again, I never do like full on, HGTV rehabs. No, that's not me. I do flooring, the paint, and whatever else it needs. Maybe sometimes it needs whatever, stove or whatever. If it needs a lot of work, I'll just pass it on. But this one needed kind of, enough. So I even did some countertop work, stuff like that. And I sold it at 189, over higher than I thought I was going to. And I bought the note for 100. That was a pretty good deal. I mean, I've had several like that. in the past, which the great thing is it was pretty easy. I agreed the homeowner, it's not a contested, fighting.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight anybody, right? So it was a deed in lieu, easy. Got the house back. Yeah, long distance rehabbing is not easy.
Absolutely.
And I can give you some pointers on that one because I've done it. I think I rehabbed
No,
it
thank you.
20 states now. So I got some pretty good teams in certain states, but
Yep.
most states are it doesn't matter. It's long distance, right? It's hard. But it does pay you off more. You get more money. But sometimes, like I got one right now in Oklahoma, I could probably get it 70,000 more, but I'm going to sell it to this investor and just get rid of it because sometimes you got to use your time wisely.
So with the reverse mortgages, have you had a bad deal go?
The reverse mortgages?
Yeah. Have you had a bad reverse mortgage deal that just went south?
I'm trying to think. Not really. I mean, I feel I'm pretty, like I said, I vet them. I vet the notes pretty well.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, I have two properties right now that I got back from reverse mortgage that I fixed up. They're on the market now. They're selling a little slower than I wanted. One, I think actually I got an offer yesterday, and the other one, I don't know, something about Mississippi. I haven't gotten much offer, and it's a nice house, but I'll make money no matter what happens on those. But
how messy is a house when you walk into those things that have been vacant for 2 years? How much?
Well, that's a great thing that I'm glad you mentioned because I was going to mention this, and I almost forgot. One thing you want to see is because this can be a huge cost to you. Is if you buy a house that's reverse mortgage or whatever, and it's vacant, it's been there for a while. Usually they have all their stuff in there still. Sometimes they're pretty clean. A lot of times they're not. I mean, I had one recently. I had to spend over $5,000-6,000 just to get the stuff out of it.
Trash outs.
Oh my Lord. So, if it's a big house, a lot of stuff, it can get super expensive. So make sure you look at that stuff, right? Make sure you determine whether that's worth, or you just got to put it all, it's all in the equation, right? You got $5,000 for the attorney fees or whatever, I'm just making up numbers, but if you get the house is totally clean, well, that number might be zero. But some of these houses are in great condition. Actually, some of the reverse mortgages, most of the reverse mortgages are in pretty good condition. Why? You think about it. It's an old, grandmother and grandpa living in the friggin' house, right? They're not trashing their own house, right? They wanted to stay there in the first place. That's why they got the reverse mortgage. They wanted to live there till they died.
But it's been vacant for 2 years. You're hoping that the lender puts some kind of, winterization on the property if it's up north, or, board it up, put a lock on it so that you don't have any people, squatting. And
I mean, you're going to get stuff that happens, right? But usually, you do the securing the property, winterizing it. I had, somewhere, they still go in and steal the HVAC copper or whatever, and if it's in a bad area. So that's why you got to pick and choose. But that doesn't happen a lot with those because usually those are in a little bit better, decent neighborhoods. It's a lot of little things you got to figure out along the way to make sure it works. And I think, but if you do that, you'll be fine. I mean, you don't know some things you don't know, right? Like I had one, I thought the HVAC looked nice, looked at the outside unit, blah blah blah. But guess what? It didn't work. I had to replace it, and that was an extra expense I didn't expect. Or the gas company comes and turns the gas on, and guess what? The gas is leaking in the house, the gas pipes. So now I got to replace the gas pipes in the house, right? So,
oh my gosh,
you gotta, this is not a game where you play that got to have some capital.
So Nathan, we'll let you. I know you're having audio still issues and whatnot. We'll let you finalize our session here and get a crystal ball out.
Yeah, sorry, the bad reception. We're in the middle of Wisconsin someplace, so it's not great reception. But yeah, we always like to kind of find out from our guests, what do you think we're in for? What's coming down the pipe? What's your vision for the next 2-3 years with the note business?
I think right now I wouldn't expect I think house prices are going to stay stubbornly high because the basically the supply is low. But what I am seeing, there's a lot of people that are having a hard time selling their house just because the people that are buying it can't get a loan. Because why can't they get a loan? Because they have high price and high interest, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be hard. So there's going to be some people that have problems, not just only selling their homes, but making their own payments. Some people bought it way too high during the COVID time, right? So there's the 1.9 million mortgages out there that were in forbearance at one time, never really got through the whole scheme of things. They're over 120 days, they're more like 600 days late, past due or whatever. So I think we'll see more, but I would not think in the next, I think it's going to be, I don't know, probably towards the end of next year. But again, I don't know for sure.
Crystal ball is always,
crystal ball's a little fuzzy. Maybe towards, you're always going to, first of all, just remember everybody, you're always going to have non-performing notes, right?
Yes.
Good times, bad times, always are there, right? So don't say, oh, I'm not going to do it right now, right? You can't really predict. You're always going to want to be going in, looking at them, finding the diamonds in the rough, and then there's going to get easier because there's going to be more. So get your feet wet, learn from these guys or whatever, and take the leap, right?
Yep.
There's always going to be notes out there, but I think there's going to be more coming down the pike. But in terms of the note business, obviously the seller finance world is, look at the numbers. There's more and more of those being originated. Why? Because people can't sell their house, right? So that's a good area to be in. Seller finance notes, either buy them, buy the parcel, whatever, you guys talk about a lot of that stuff. And, I buy some of those as well.
Yeah.
So, there's always a place, right? Just like the market was bad when you're just a traditional investor buying properties, right? There's always good times and bad times. But you just, I was buying houses 2007 before I quit my job. I was buying houses at the peak. But guess what? I was buying 20% below the market.
That was
my
strategy. About the pricing.
Yeah. So when it came down 20%, guess what? No big deal. If it came down 90%, would I be hurting? No, because it was paying, right?
Yeah.
It's a paying house. Those are rentals, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you have cash flow, you're okay. It doesn't really matter what the market does. It's like a dividend, right? If your stock goes up or down, it doesn't matter. You're still getting your dividend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the market will even itself out. We looked back and said that 2006, 7, 8, the market dropped not by 100%. It dropped by a little and came back up. But if someone needs a place to live, they're gonna have to keep paying their bill. You're gonna have some defaults, but things are gonna keep going. And like you said before, there always is non-performing notes, and it's not because of the market. It's a borrower died, someone got sick, someone lost a job, divorced, credit card debt, housing debt, kid situation, million reasons why loans go default outside the economic part of the space. So I think you're absolutely right on that. So I really appreciate you just kind of putting yourself out there and giving us your crystal ball in just idea from an experienced investor what you come to say. So I appreciate you coming on with us and joining us for this Friday afternoon.
Great. Appreciate it.
Feel free, guys. This will be recorded. It'll be on YouTube, on our podcast. And like I said, in January, me and Nathan will be running our advanced class, which is a 5-week advanced class, which I highly recommend you just check out. Because if you're not ready for it, when this thing comes at us, we'll enjoy the returns while you guys are stuck with the performing notes, getting your little 10, 12, and when we're jumping on a non-performing world, right? So we encourage you guys to jump in that world, but make sure you do it smart, safe, and intelligently, because you can get way beyond. So Randy, once again, hang on for after hours. I appreciate you coming on and joining us live. And for everyone else, have a great weekend.